Ladies and gentlemen, hear me by the Spirit. No man truly begins to live until he has found the presence of God. There are many who are running but have never started. There are many who are busy but have never built. You can have a calendar full of activity and still be spiritually bankrupt. In this kingdom, our strength does not come from motion. It comes from presence. Before God sends a man, he hides him. Before he lifts a voice, he silences it in the secret place. The presence of God is not a supplement, it is the foundation. You are not designed to start your day with noise and distractions. You were created to begin at the altar. That is where clarity comes. That is where instructions flow. That is where strength is renewed. It is not weakness to depend on Him. It is wisdom. It is not laziness to wait. It is power, because in the presence, what would take years can happen in moments. In the presence, you don't just receive answers, you become an answer. I have come to remind you that until the Lord goes before you, your journey has not truly begun. The presence of God is not just a calm atmosphere during worship. It is not merely a feeling of goosebumps when songs are being sung. The presence of God is a person, the very embodiment of God Himself made manifest. The tragedy of our generation is that we have become familiar with atmospheres without intimacy. We have mastered the external manifestations while neglecting the reality of His indwelling. But hear me, God's presence is not an event. It is the habitation of His being. When we say start with the presence of God, we are not suggesting a motivational practice. We are declaring a spiritual necessity. It is possible to be around an atmosphere and still miss the person. Many touched Jesus, but only the woman with the issue of blood made contact. Many walked with Him, but only a few truly knew Him. The presence is not just where God passes through, it is where He abides. The presence of God is a person you host. He is not a force you summon at will. He is not a tool for ministry. He is not a backup for emergencies. He is Lord. Until He is acknowledged as such, you will keep having moments with no transformation. There are people who have prayed and fasted, yet never encountered the presence because their motives were wrong. They sought the power of God without the person of God. They desired results without relationship, and so they received activity but no intimacy. The ark was in the camp, but the glory had departed. The lamp was still burning in the temple, but Ichabod had been written in the spirit. When you understand that the presence is a person, you begin to treat Him differently. You no longer rush in and out. You no longer approach Him like a stranger. There is a protocol of presence. There is a way to approach royalty. You cannot host Him casually and expect the weight of His glory. In the Spirit, the presence of God is your greatest currency. It is what makes the difference between ordinary and supernatural. The apostles were unlearned men, but the presence distinguished them. Pharaoh was not afraid of Moses' rod. He was afraid of the presence that backed it. It is the presence that makes words carry fire. It is the presence that causes a man to speak an atmosphere shift. The presence is not silence. It is not noise. It is essence, tangible, transferable, You must contend to know Him, not just through sermons, but through fellowship. You must long for Him until your heart burns again, until you cry not for things, but for Him, until your worship is not a song but a surrender. The presence is not a visitor, it is a dwelling place. Men who carry the presence are not always popular, but they are always powerful, because the presence does not just change situations, it changes men. It redefines their possibilities. It recalibrates their destiny. Until we return to that reality, we will keep chasing shadows. The presence of God is not a luxury, it is a necessity. In the realm of the Spirit, victories are not determined by physical strength or intellectual advantage. They are determined by alignment. The presence of God is the protocol for victory. It is the spiritual system by which battles are won, even before they are fought. There are men who do not look like it in the physical, yet they command results that confound the wisdom of men. Their secret is not in their voice, it is in the presence that goes before them. There is a difference between moving with God and God moving with you. Many walk into assignments, relationships, and seasons with confidence drawn from personal experience or human counsel, and they wonder why the outcomes betray their effort. But those who understand spiritual principles know that in this kingdom, advancement is not first a product of effort, it is a result of His presence going before you. The ark must go ahead, not follow behind. The strategy of the Spirit is that God precedes His people in movement. It is not that you try and ask Him to bless it, it is that you stay until He moves, and you follow. You must discern the difference between motion and progress. Not all movement is progress in the Spirit. A man can run fast in the wrong direction. Without the presence, you can achieve visibility and still not have relevance. You can have applause and still be void of impact. But when His presence goes ahead of you, He makes crooked paths straight. He subdues territories before you arrive. He silences voices that should rise against you. That presence does not just fight for you, it speaks for you, it builds for you, it defends you. In the days of the patriarchs, this was their confidence. They didn't have titles, they didn't have degrees, but they had presence, and when they showed up, nations, not because of who they were in themselves, but because of who was with them. The presence of God is the difference between David and any other shepherd boy. It is why one stone from his sling could bring down a warrior who had been trained for. It is why Joseph could rise from the prison to the palace in one night, because the Lord was with him. In the economy of the Spirit, it is dangerous to take steps God has not authorized. Many are in delay today, not because of demonic attack, but because they started without presence. They negotiated their future without the counsel of the Spirit. They trusted logic and ignored the leading of the Holy Ghost. But those who have learned to wait, those who have trained their spirits to discern His movement, they may look slow in the eyes of men, but they never arrive late. Because when you start with His presence, you start with the advantage, you start with certainty, you start with the assurance that He has already gone ahead. In the realm of God, trust is not given on the basis of activity, it is earned through intimacy. The presence of God is not only a place of fellowship, it is the platform for divine trust. God does not commit Himself to a man He cannot find in His presence. There are things in the Spirit that are not released simply because we ask, they are entrusted because we have been proven, and that proving happens in the secret place, the hidden realm where there are no lights, no claps, no noise, just you and God. That is where men are shaped, that is where authority is formed. There are mantles that cannot be faked. There are dimensions of wisdom and access that cannot be studied. They are born from the womb of consecration. There is a fragrance that only comes from staying long in His presence. It is the scent of trust. It is what God smells before He puts certain burdens and graces upon a life. If God cannot find you in His presence, He will withhold certain dimensions from your destiny, not as punishment, but as protection, because the weight of divine responsibility, without the strength of intimacy, will crush you. You see, there is a price for spiritual trust, and that price is consistency in the secret place. There are prayers that are not for answers, they are for alignment. There are fastings that are not to move God, they are to empty self, because until self dies, the throne cannot be given. The presence becomes the place where the flesh is broken, where your will is surrendered, and where the nature of Christ is formed in you. It is there God checks your motives, He tests your obedience, He examines the purity of your pursuit. There are people who cry for influence in ministry, in business, in life, yet their spiritual life is shallow. They want crowns without altars.
They want thrones without tears, but in this kingdom God does not lift men beyond their depth in. He cannot trust your voice in public until he can trust your silence in private. The presence becomes the classroom where you are trained in hearing, in waiting, in dying to self, until he can whisper and you obey without argument. You are not ready to carry anything from him. God is not only looking for gifted men, he is looking for yielded men, men who are dead enough to carry glory without taking it, men who can be lifted and still hide behind the cross, men who can be seen and still say, he must increase. That kind of posture is built in the present. That kind of heart is forged in the fire of communion. And when God finds such a man, he does not withhold anything. He pours himself. He opens dimensions. He commits secrets. Because that man has become a dwelling place, not just a visitor. And God only entrusts what is eternal to those who abide, not those who pass through. There is a pattern in the spirit that wise men have followed through the ages. It is the mystery of beginning every day, every season and every assignment from the place of the present. When a man starts in the presence of God, he does not just begin with prayer. He begins with alignment. You do not step into your day because the clock says so. You step in when heaven speaks. The presence of God is not an interruption to your schedule. It is the origin of your schedule. From there your activities are not guesses. They are instructions. There are many people who wake up and run into life, hoping things will align, only to find themselves wasted by the confusion of the day. But there is a posture of dominion that comes upon a man who has learned to wait. He may look like he's behind by human timing, but in the spirit he is ahead, because while others are reacting, he is responding. He is moving in precision, because his decisions are born from light, not trial and error. The presence of God is where order is established. Chaos ends when light comes, and the secret place is the womb of light. When you begin in the presence, God brings clarity. He tells you what matters and what can wait. He shows you what battles to fight and what storms to ignore. Without that advantage, you will spend your strength on things that are not profitable. You will fight wars that God never sent you to fight. You will try to fix what only favor can heal. Many destinies are broken not because of sin but because of misalignment. Men began well but they did not begin with God. They chose speed over direction. And in the kingdom, speed is useless when you are on the wrong path. But when you begin with the presence, direction is restored. Suddenly the decisions that once confused you become clear. You don't waste energy trying to be everywhere. You know where your supply is, and you position yourself with precision. There is also a posture that forms in a man who tarries in the presence. His atmosphere is saturated. He may not speak, but the air around him testifies that he has been with God. You can fake charisma but you cannot fake incense. That aroma comes from the altar. It comes from tears, from surrender, from worship that is deeper than melody. When you start your day with that fragrance, even people who hate you cannot explain why they favor you. They are responding to a presence they cannot see, but cannot resist. Starting with the presence is not an act of discipline. It is a covenant of dependence. It is the declaration that without him you know nothing, can do nothing, and are nothing. It is a cry of humility before the throne. It is a priesthood posture. Only kings who have knelt in the secret place have the authority to speak in the open. And only those who start with God can sustain him as they rise. In the realm of the spirit, the enemy does not always fight men with sickness, poverty or delay. He fights them with distraction. He understands that the greatest threat to his agenda is not just a praying man but a man of presence. The strategy of darkness has always been to keep men busy, but disconnected, to fill their schedules and starve their spirit, because Satan knows that the moment a man returns to the presence of God, his authority is restored, his perception is sharpened, his sensitivity is activated. So the warfare is not always against your finances, it's against your prayer life. It's not just against your body, it's against your intimacy. It is possible to be active in church, and yet empty in spirit. It is possible to sing, preach, give and serve, and yet be far from the presence of the one who called you. And nothing terrifies hell more than a man who has rediscovered the secret place. That man becomes a mobile throne. He is not loud, but he is dangerous, because every time he kneels, altars tremble. Every time he lifts his hands, atmospheres shake. The devil will let you do everything else. Just don't carry presence. There is a deception that comes with activity, that as long as you are moving, you must be growing. But in the spirit, motion without communion is futility. The enemy is content to let you stay in motion, as long as you don't return to the place of intimacy. He knows that your relevance is tied to your consecration. He knows that your voice only carries weight when it comes from the throne. So he floods your life with noise, with pressure, with endless responsibilities, until you no longer have time for the one who matters most. There are seasons when the enemy will not even tempt you with sin. He will tempt you with success. He will offer you platforms, without prayer influence, without intimacy, results without encounters, and if you are not discerning, you will embrace visibility at the expense of presence. You will substitute oil for charisma. You will lose the secret place while gaining public honor. But heaven does not reward motion. It rewards obedience, and obedience begins in the presence. Everything Satan took from Adam, he took by disconnecting him from presence, and everything Christ restored to man, he restored by reconnecting him to that same presence. So the real warfare is not about territory, it is about presence, because the man who has presence will take territory. The man who has presence will command resources. The man who has presence will walk into rooms he didn't apply for, and doors will open, not because of his name but because of the fragrance he carries. This is why you must fight to protect your altar, guard your mornings, secure your communion, let no day begin until his voice speaks, because everything else flows from that place. Authority flows from presence, revelation flows from presence, preservation flows from presence, and Satan will do anything to make sure you forget. So hear me, people of God. If you will rise in this kingdom, if you will last, if you will matter, if you will walk in power and relevance, in every season, then you must make the presence of God your priority, your pursuit, your atmosphere, and your home. Start with the presence of God, not as a religious habit, but as a covenant. Let your victories come from the secret place. Let your wisdom flow from communion. Let your identity be born from the altar of intimacy. You don't need to beg for influence, for doors, for platforms. Carry his presence, and creation will respond. You don't need to force your way through life. Walk with him and he will go before you. He will speak for you in rooms you have never entered. He will raise men to honor you without knowing why. The secret is not in doing more. It is in staying with him more. The oil is not on the outside. It is in the secret jar of his presence. Start there, stay there, and rise from there. May the fire on your altar never burn out. May hunger consume you until you find him. May grace be multiplied upon you to seek, to wait, to discern, and to obey. This is the generation that will not walk with empty hands or dry hearts. We will carry God. Thank you for opening your heart to this message. May your pursuit of God bring you into divine encounters that rewrite your destiny. May every step you take be guided by his voice and covered by his glory. As you start with his presence, may you never lack his power, his peace, or his provision. Good luck on your journey. Go forth in strength. Go forth in light. Go forth in God.